What's the single most important skill for writing great Python code? It's probably not what you think. It isn't some complex algorithm. It's actually much, much simpler. It's just naming things correctly. So in this explainer, we are going to dive into the blueprint that separates confusing, messy code from software that is just brilliantly readable.
So let's just start with a really fundamental question. Who are you actually writing your code for? I mean, sure, the computer has to run it, but the reality is code is read way more often than it's written. And while the Python interpreter could not care less if you name your variable x or user_profile list, the next human who has to read your code, and hey, that might be you in 6 months, they absolutely, definitely do care.
Okay, so if we're writing for other people, we need a shared language, right? A common vocabulary. This is our core lexicon. And it all starts with the absolute hard and fast rules. The stuff that the interpreter itself is going to enforce.
Python has some rules that are totally non-negotiable. For instance, your variable names can't start with a number. The interpreter just won't know what to do with it. They also can't have hyphens, because, well, that's the subtraction operator. And forget about special characters like the $sign. If you try any of these, you're pretty much guaranteed a syntax error.
And this table here really drives that point home. It's not just about weird symbols, it's also about reserved words. For example, you can't just name a variable class. And why not? Well, because class is one of Python's 35 core keywords that basically define the entire structure of the language itself.
So, beyond those hard syntax rules, we have let's call them the soft rules of Python culture. The community strongly encourages these three main styles of casing. You should really think of them as visual signals. Each one instantly tells a developer what kind of thing they're looking at. And yeah, you'll notice the camel with the big X through it. While you see it a lot in other languages, it's a style you really want to avoid in Python.
All right, now we get to the fun part. Let's take those basic building blocks and actually start to construct our Pythonic blueprint. This is where we get to see how applying these different cases creates a structure in our code that's predictable and, most importantly, super readable.
Okay, so for your regular variables and your functions, the community standard is snakecase. That's all lowercase with words separated by underscores. And the difference it makes is just night and day. Look at the anti-patterns, vague abbreviations, mixed casing. It's just confusing. But descriptive, snake-cased names give you maximum clarity. Your code almost starts to document itself.
Now, for classes, the actual blueprints for our objects, they need a different style. Pascal case, which is also known as cap words. This makes them visually pop. You can immediately tell it's a template or a type. And notice how the methods inside the class still use snake_case? This creates a clear, instant visual hierarchy that's just incredibly easy to follow.
And what about values that are never, ever supposed to change? Like a fixed timeout or an API key. For those, we use upper_snakecase. This is like the universal programming signal for hands off, this is a constant. And on the flip side, for modules, you want to keep it short, simple, and all lowercase.
So here's the really crucial takeaway. All of these individual rules, they come together to form this master blueprint. And look, this isn't just about following rules for the sake of it. This matrix makes code predictable. You can tell at a single glance if you're looking at a class, a function, or a constant. There's no guesswork involved, which means you can read and understand code so much faster.
All right, now for something I think is truly fascinating. Python has this kind of secret language. It's a way to communicate really complex ideas about privacy and access, all without needing strict keywords like public or private. And it's all done with just one character, the underscore.
The best way to think about it is as a spectrum of intent. So on one end, you have a regular variable name that's public, totally accessible from anywhere. But as you start adding underscores, you move through these different levels of intended privacy, all the way to those special system-level magic methods.
A single leading underscore, like _internal state, is what we call a gentleman's agreement. It's basically a signal from one developer to another that just says, hey, this thing is for internal use only. Please don't rely on it because I might change it or even remove it later without any warning. Now, two leading underscores, that triggers a really powerful mechanism called name mangling. When the Python interpreter sees something like __password inside the account class, it actually renames it behind the scenes to _account_password. Now, this isn't for security. It's a safety feature to stop subclasses from accidentally overriding internal attributes.
And finally, you've got names that start and end with two underscores. We call these dunder methods. It's short for double underscore.
Think of things like _init or _len. These are special hooks that let your objects integrate with Python's core behaviors. And the golden rule here is super simple. Use them all you want, but never ever invent your own.
So, after all that, why does this matter? What's the big payoff for following this whole blueprint? Well, it all comes down to one simple, powerful word: readability. You know, it's really the difference between visual friction and visual harmony. The code on the left, sure, it works, but it's a chaotic mess of styles that you have to stop and decipher. The code on the right, though, is harmonized. It follows the blueprint, and that lets you understand what each part is doing almost instantly. And this brings us to what I like to call the readability equation. See, consistent naming creates predictable patterns in your code. Those patterns reduce your cognitive load. That's the mental energy you have to spend just trying to figure out what's going on. And the result? Well, it's faster onboarding for new developers and, you guessed it, fewer bugs.
Following these conventions also helps you steer clear of some really common traps, like please avoid ambiguous single-letter variables that look like numbers, and never ever overwrite Python's built-in functions by naming a variable list or dict. And finally, don't add redundant context that just makes your code clunky. Each of these is a small mistake that can lead to some pretty big headaches down the road.
And here you have it. The entire philosophy we've been talking about, all distilled into one single practical cheat sheet. This is your go-to guide. It brings together the core rules for casing, the decoder for all the underscore meanings, and the key dangers to avoid. It's the whole naming blueprint, all in one place.
And that really brings us to the ultimate takeaway. The next time you sit down to write some code, just ask yourself this one question. You've made it run for the machine, sure, but does it communicate clearly to the next human who has to read it? Because that is the real mark of a great developer.